Live from DiMarzio's English page and also from ESPN. Everyone knows him all over North America and worldwide. Great on the transfer market. Great talking about Italian soccer. David Amoyal. David, welcome, my friend.
What a pleasure to talk to you, Anthony. It's been too long. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Pleasure's all mine, and it has been too long. And David, just before we get into talking about Serie A, for those of you out there that tweeted back at me asking me about Andrea D'Amico coming on, unfortunately he couldn't come on tonight. He has apologized. He's in China, not even in Italy, in China, because I thought he was in Italy when we spoke Saturday for him to come on the show. But he's in China. He says, Anthony, I'll come on Wednesday, or I'll come on next Monday and I'll tell you why I'm in China. So that's the reason why. So we understood and we respected that, and we'll wait for him to come on in the next couple of shows. But let's get right to it, David. A lot of people, before we talk about the Milan match today, wanted me to ask you, David, what's going on with Juve? A lot of people are upset. A lot of people are furious after yesterday. I want you to tell us what you think took place and what you think are some of the concerning parts of Juve's game lately.
Well, you know, I think Juve for the first time is showing some cracks in the armor in Serie A. You know, in recent years, we never saw them struggle quite like this. They're still great at home at Juventus Stadium. It's like a bunker for them. They seem to always win there, but on the road, they've already lost 4 games. So that's certainly reason for concern. They've had injuries for sure, but I think, you know, as Chiellini pointed out, you know, they do miss Pogba. You don't lose players like Pogba and Vidal in back-to-back seasons without feeling it.
Let's talk about a team I'm really enjoying watching this year. That's Milan. Here's a team with the youngster we all talk about, Donnarumma, but they've got other players that have really stepped up to the plate. And this is a team that a lot of people didn't think that they would be battling as hard as they have, right to the very last minute. Again, today we see that. This, to me, has been a real surprise and a joy for a lot of the Milan fans to see the way they played this year, David. Your thoughts?
I certainly agree. I think Montella deserves a ton of credit. He's in consideration for Manager of the Year in Serie A for me because of what he's done with Milan. We saw his predecessor, Mihailovic, start to launch some of the young players, Donnarumma, of course, and Montella took it a step further. We're seeing Locatelli playing regularly. Today we saw Calabria. So I think, you know, Berlusconi's plan, which was to have a young Italian Milan, is starting to come to fruition. So I think it's great, not just for Milan, but for the future of Italian soccer as a whole.
A team that goes about their business year after year after year is Roma, again sitting in the second spot. And again, a team that just goes about their business, doesn't cause a big stir out there. But when it comes whether the Champions League or when it comes to a big match against Juve or a Napoli or an Inter, you see that maybe there is some cracks in their holes. Talk about it, David.
Well, I think you framed it very well. Roma seems to do very well in a lot of matches except the big ones with a lot of pressure. It'll be interesting to see. Now they have an opportunity with Juve struggling. They're only, you know, they could be just 4 points behind, assuming Juve wins the match they have to make up. So it'll be interesting to see how Roma copes with Salah in the Africa Cup. But the win against Udinese on Sunday was definitely a good sign for them. I think they have a clear opportunity in Serie A, but as you said, they need to come up big in a big match.
A huge surprise for me, and a pleasant surprise, Atalanta. Here's a team that many didn't expect to be sitting where they're at in the 7th spot, but they've opened up eyes as well, David. Talk about them.
Well, it's interesting, you know, Atalanta has been the surprise team of this season. They've been what Sassuolo has done in a previous season, a team that succeeds using Italian young players while also playing attacking football, which is the trademark of their coach, Gasperini. They were already cashing in on a lot of their youth players that have done so well. Gagliardini had an excellent debut for Inter after playing well for Atalanta. And then there's defender Cataldi, who's going to go to Juve in a year and a half. So a lot of credit to them. Believing in Italian players and developing them is their business model, and it's really paying off this season.
Talk about a guy who's really opened up eyes. His stock has risen. That is Belotti. Belotti, to me, is a guy that I believe is going to bring a lot to the table when it comes to a national team call-up. with club. We see how great he's doing. And this is a wonderful story. I don't know where I read it, David. You probably know more than I. But I think he was chasing chickens. I'm not making this up. I think I read it somewhere on a farm, or he was doing some type of work like that. And now he has risen to stardom and the way he's been playing lately.
Well, I can't give you details on the story about the chicken beyond that his nickname is Il Gallo, the rooster, and maybe it comes for that, and that's his trademark celebration. But I completely agree with you. He's really the future for the Italian national team. I think Italy was really hoping that Balotelli would become that main striker, and maybe he still can, but Belotti's been sensational in all of 2016. He's gotten off to a great start with the new year. So there's just a lot of intriguing young Italian players. I mentioned Gagliardini earlier. We have Belotti, Donnarumma, Locatelli on Milan. Berardi's coming back healthy. There's Bernardeschi. So, maybe the next World Cup in Russia is a little bit too soon, but for the World Cup in Qatar, Italy has a lot of players coming ready to come to the national team, which is great.
Let's talk about Bologna. I believe sooner than later that Roberto Donadoni will head here to MLS. I truly believe that. I believe that Montreal Impact will be his destination when the time comes. Either there, or I'll go out and say it, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a New York team or maybe here in Toronto. But I believe the first Italian coach to come from Italy here to MLS will be Donadoni. If I'm not mistaken, I should say the second, because Zenga, I think, did coach a little bit with New England Revolution way, way back when he hung up the boots. I think he did there after he played a bit. But I believe Donadoni could be destined. You?
I think you're absolutely correct. He does have some ties to the U.S. He did come and play here briefly at the end of his playing career. He's been linked, to MLS clubs in the past. His dream job has always been Milan, but it really looked like that ship has sailed for him with Montella doing well. And he's had a pretty good season at Bologna, not great. Of course, there's the Saputo connection. So I completely agree with you. And I think it'd be great for MLS to have a manager like Donadoni come here. I think it would be a good move for him and a great move for the league, too.
David, let's talk about the transfer market just before we let you go. Yourself and everyone at DiMarzio's site there do an unbelievable job. I believe you guys are the tops of what you do. It's not because you're on the show with me, but every time I look at Twitter, I read a story, you guys are on top of it. You're the first to tweet it out. You guys have your ears right to the doors, right everywhere, all over the world. And I think there's a lot of things that are now in play, especially with China becoming a big-time player. And I think this could become a real serious problem. I'm going to ask you this too, David. I believe sooner than later we could start hearing something along the lines of India. I believe India will start opening up the purse strings as well. Your thoughts?
Well, I think, with China, it's certainly very interesting. It doesn't surprise me that D'Amico is there now. We've seen a lot of agents, try to develop ties with China. The moves that have been happening in recent years are really shocking in a way, but they've also been gradual. They started with players like Gilardino and Diamanti towards the end of their career going there. Then we saw South American players in their prime leave for big money. And now we saw Axel Witsel, who was a European player supposed to go to Juve, who decided to go to China. So it's going to have a huge impact. About a year ago, I thought China was going to impact MLS, but now I think they're going to impact the European leagues much more than MLS. So it's becoming a global game. It's not out of the question, as you say, that other countries try to develop with that, but China is going to be a huge player for years to come, that's for sure.
Talk about the relationship, David, that DiMarzio, yourself, and many in your group there have built with agents, with players, a trust factor, a trust bond, where they can trust in speaking to you guys off the record, where they can trust that the information will be factual. In a day and age, David, you and I both know there's so much of this garbage with fake news out there. It's hard to disseminate what's true, what's not. But you're getting the real deal because people trust you, David, and DiMarzio, and you do great work on ESPN. And that's built over years. Talk about it.
Well, I can't even remotely compare myself when it comes to DiMarzio. He's just an incredible reporter. I'm a little bit more of a columnist. But as you said, it's about developing trust. I think people know that they're going to get a fair shake from Gianluca and to a much lesser extent I. I speak regularly to some agents, and we just talk about what's going on. I think sometimes they like to get insight from people that cover the game, and sometimes in return you might get a nugget of information. And I think, Di Marzio has just built a great relationship, not just with agents, which is pretty typical for journalists, but also with the clubs. So for him, it's very easy to check if a story is legit or not, because sometimes people tell you information just for you to put it out there to gain leverage. But I think Gianluca does a great job of covering all bases, and that's why he's so accurate.
Lastly, your thoughts on this, David. We're starting to see a lot more offshore investments in teams in Italy. We know that the Chinese are involved in Milan. We're hearing of many others starting to get involved, whether it's Egyptians, whether it's people from Dubai, on and on. Do you believe this could be a problem down the road for Italian soccer, or do you believe this is needed for them to be a player once again in buying players? Or are you skeptical? Are you concerned?
Well, I think, I think it's a good thing overall, because I look at what Saputo is doing with Bologna and Pallotta too with Roma. I think it's a good thing. Italy, though, is tough because the fan bases are so demanding. They expect the president to be close and really know a lot about what's going on with the team. I think Pallotta does a fairly good job with that, but he has a big set of challenges. I think Saputo is doing very well with Bologna. I think it makes sense for foreign investors to look to these brands of Italian clubs that used to be good and maybe don't have great financial conditions. It would be great if more tried to build stadiums like Pallotta is doing with Roma, because that's something that would really help Serie A as well. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the idea of foreign investors. I think with Inter, we're seeing that they're able to spend a ton, and hopefully Milan will be able to do the same.
You've built a wonderful brand for yourself, David, especially up here in Canada. A lot of people in Quebec, in Montreal, here in Toronto, all over follow you. They listen to you. They read you. You got the work that people love, working and enjoying reading when it comes to Serie A. So many here in Canada, thank you for coming on and really appreciate the work you do. And they tweet at you. You answer them back in a respectful way. They come back to you in a respectful way. And that's what it's all about. And that's why your brand keeps continuously getting better day in and day out. So we thank you again for making time. We thank you that, you interact with a lot of people up here in Canada, because you've got a lot of supporters up here, my friend.
Well, I totally agree, and a big thank you to people like you that promote what I do. That's a big part of it, and I'm just lucky to work with great people in Italy and people on my team, so it's easy for me to look good. But I really appreciate everyone that reads my work and promotes it like you. So a big thank you to all of you.
David, you're a class act. Thank you so much for making time. You've got a big heart, and you really care about the game, and you do honest, transparent work. So we thank you, and again, really appreciate you making time. Enjoy the rest of your evening, my friend.
You as well. Thank you so much. Ciao.